You guys are awesome. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you all coming out here. As you can see, I came bearing gifts, which we'll discuss in just a moment. But I first want to thank, obviously, the college Republicans for having spent all of the time and energy organizing this, all of you for taking time out of your schedule, out of drinking and partying to come hear me. And come on, it's UCSB. And I want to thank, obviously, Young America's Foundation for sponsoring this event. So, I want to start with a story from Vanderbilt University. So, November 2015, black students protested and demanded diversity classes at Vanderbilt University. And the next day, a bag of dog crap showed up at the front door of the Black Cultural Center. Right? It was a bad thing. It looks like maybe a racist incident. So the Black Student Union releases a statement calling the university as a whole racist and talking about the, quote, isolation of students of color. And the police investigate, and then they don't do anything. So it looks like a clear-cut case. There's institutional racism clearly, right? They report this terrible racist incident. The police don't do anything after investigating. Except what happened, it turns out, is that there was a blind girl, and she had a dog, and the dog pooped, and so she picked up the poop in a bag. She couldn't find anyone to direct her to the nearest trash can, and so she did what you're supposed to do. She put it in front of the nearest populated building, figuring that somebody would get up in the morning, take the bag of dog crap, and throw it in the trash. So you'd figure that this would be a little bit embarrassing for the Black Student Union for making such a big hubbub over basically a blind girl putting a bag of dog crap here so somebody will clean it up. Well, they weren't that embarrassed. They actually released a statement that then said that the university was still racist, but also that people with disabilities were clearly marginalized on this campus. And that's the way it tends to go on America's college campuses these days. Everybody is a victim. Not everybody. If you're a white, straight male, you're not a victim. But everybody else is a victim. Intersectionality is the theory of the day. And this is the theory that says that we are going to judge your virtue, we're going to judge your capacity to be a good person by the color of your skin or by your sexual orientation. And precisely the opposite of the Martin Luther King idea. The idea now is that your identity is your virtue. So this creates a hierarchy of victimhood. And the hierarchy of victimhood goes something like this. There's LGBT people at the top, and then blacks, and then Hispanics, and then women, and then Asians, and then Jews are near the bottom here, and then straight white males are at the very bottom, because straight white males are the great victimizers. And we can tell whether what you say has value, not based on what you're actually saying, but based instead on your place in this hierarchy of victimhood. So if we could somehow find the unicorn of intersectionality, you know, the bisexual, transgender, female little person who's 3/4 black, 1/4 Native American and disabled, if we could find that person, we could all just go home. Because that person would have every great view. Because no matter what that person said, it would have to be right. You could not be more of a victim than this human being. And victimhood in our culture now confers privilege. Right? There is a victim privilege in our culture, at least in our political culture, that suggests that if you are part of a victimized group, this means that you have virtue to speak on any subject, and also you get to shut down everybody else. And there are some pretty solid privileges that come along with victimhood. Two in particular. One is you're the only one who gets to talk. You get to tell everybody else to shut up. You get to tell other people that they are the beneficiaries of white privilege, or that they are the beneficiaries of America's social justice problem. You get to tell everybody else that you are the one who gets to speak. The floor is yours if you are higher on the scale of victimhood. And second, you actually get to hurt people. So it's not just enough to tell people to shut up. If they violate those rules that say they have to shut up, then you actually get to hurt people. And you also get to virtue signal. I mean, this is what we're all into on campuses these days, is virtue signaling, this idea that, again, you're a great person based on your identity. So I've heard that there are stickers being passed out on this campus and buttons being passed out on this campus in honor of me coming and speaking that say, what, UCSB against hate, is that correct? Hate-free UCSB. Well, UCSB against hate was the one that I had heard before I came, so I have my own button. And it says right here, me against you sucking. Because it turns out that facts are not hate. It turns out that truth is not hate. And if you don't like what I have to say, then maybe you should argue with what I have to say instead of simply declaring it hate speech and therefore off limits. I also have heard that they've planned like half a dozen events tonight to prevent people from coming. Clearly that was successful. And I heard that one of the events that they planned tonight was the Social Justice Awards. Now, I don't know what trophies they hand out at the Social Justice Awards. I don't know what they hand out. Are they like little statuettes? So I brought my own, actually. It's just a design suggestion for the Social Justice Awards. And I think it's perfectly appropriate. As you can see, it's a golden toilet. And I think that this is a perfectly appropriate suggestion for two reasons. One, social justice is a bunch of crap. And second, I made perfectly certain that when I purchased this, that the toilet was sex non-specific. Anyone can use this toilet. It doesn't matter. You should just feel welcome to use this particular toilet. So, you know, personally, I'm just disappointed that I don't actually get to visit the poetry slam. You guys are having a poetry slam tonight. Nothing is more fun than a poetry slam, as we all know. I'm sure we got Keats and Shelley out there reading verse about menstrual equality or some such nonsense. Well, when I talk about, the violence that springs up from all of this, it's not just enough that it's fun to joke about the silliness of all of this, because it really is silly. I mean, we're going to be having questions, and let me say what I always say at my talks, which is, if you're on the left, I want you to go first. It's more interesting if we have an actual conversation, and all joking aside, I like having conversations with people who disagree with me, because sometimes we can actually reach some element of truth. I tend to think of politics sort of like two lines that are not parallel, and where they intersect, sometimes you can find some facts that you agree on, and so sometimes it's fun to go looking in search of those facts. But usually, or at least too often, the virtue signaling, the intersectionality philosophy, the snowflake philosophy suggests that things have to be shut down. And that's why you've had situations, I know, on this campus with a bomb threat at a past event. And I know that at UC Berkeley, there was obviously the riot surrounding Milo speaking there. When I was at Cal State Los Angeles, there was a near riot there. I had to be rushed in by a cordon of 20 armed cops. I had to be rushed out by a cordon of 20 armed cops. All the students in this theater were basically trapped there. They were told to stay there until I left, until the crowd could dissipate, because they said they couldn't guarantee the safety of the students. When I was at Penn State, we had a serious security problem with people trying to bash in the doors while I was speaking and rush the room. Now, this sort of thing, unfortunately, is not rare enough. And that's not even taking into account campuses where the administration is completely unhelpful and actually wants to ban you, right? When I went to DePaul University, they actually banned me from DePaul University, to the point where when I walked on campus, you can find the video online, it's actually kind of funny, because I'm standing there, and there's like an 8-foot Goliath security guy standing over me, and he's saying, if you take one more step forward on this campus, we will take you away in handcuffs. And they'd actually brought the sheriff from Cook County there. He was sitting right there in the background, gleefully smiling at me as he fingered his handcuffs, and he was ready to take me away in handcuffs. And this is all based on this idea that if your feelings are hurt, you get to shut down somebody else, and your feelings are inherently hurt if you're a member of one of these groups. At this university, perception of victimhood allows you to deface signs for this lecture. It allows faculty and staff to plan how to disrupt the lecture. As was mentioned, it allows professors to say things that are completely false, like I'm a neo-Nazi. Okay, you see this yarmulke? It means they ain't my people. Okay, in fact, according to the Anti-Defamation League, which is a lefty group, I was the #1 recipient of journalistic anti-Semitism in the United States last year. And a lot of that was from the alt-right groups and the neo-Nazi groups. But that doesn't stop that. And members of the Black Student Union here tried to block the event originally, which is sort of fascist. It is. And apparently they complained that my criticism of the Black Lives Matter movement was making black UCSB students feel unsafe, unable to focus in class because they're too busy protesting this event, which, I mean, I guess that's as good an excuse as any for getting a C on your diversity studies essay. But honest to goodness, you didn't have to do that much work. I mean, just do what everybody else does. Crib it from online, change a few words, and the professors will never find out. I mean, this idea that it's because I'm making you feel, if you're failing your class because I make you feel unsafe, for God's sake, look at me. Okay. One of these students said it makes people feel uncomfortable to the point they're not able to focus on their schoolwork because they're busy mobilizing to protect their basic rights. If you've been spending the last 6 months mobilizing to protect your basic rights from little old me, let me suggest that you need to spend your time more productively. Okay, so the actual theme of this speech is not about the evils of intersectionality. It's about the truth about America, which is that this is the greatest country on the face of the earth, and here, we're not trying to stop you. If you're black, we're not trying to stop you. If you're Latino, we're not trying to stop you. If you're gay, we're not trying to stop you. If you're transgender, we're not trying to stop you. No one cares about you. No one's interested in you. No one cares about your life. No one is trying to throw up obstacles in your way. That's not to suggest there aren't isolated racists and isolated sexists and isolated homophobes and bigots. Of course there are. Of course there are. But the idea that the institutional society as a whole is out to get you is just plain false. And not only is it false, it's counterproductive and destroys your chances at success. Because if you imbibe the spirit that says that you are inherently going to fail, That anybody who says something, who disagrees with you, is going to cause you to be unable to study, and then you get a C in your diversity studies course, and now you can't go to the law school you wanted to. That's your own damn fault. Okay, that philosophy is your own damn fault. You want to succeed in America? Work harder. That's all. Well, thanks a lot.